was no Louis and Ian yet, but we're live because somebody that might be waiting might actually know what a market surveillance authority is. What are we listening to on Bruce's channel? Something or other. Because it would appear is that your latest video? Is that why YouTube sucks? Have you just already got this stream canned by playing something back on
YouTube sucks because I made a change this morning and I can't access any of the menus on the sidebar. It just brings up a blank section.
Oh yes, I noticed earlier it all changed. Yes,
is your menu on the left hand side working when you click on the little bars?
Let's have a look. I know it all changed to look at.
Let me have a look.
It's gone. Yes, it's gone. Yes.
Is it just if you click on those little bars, does it come back?
No.
Is it a blank? Just opens up a blank.
It's blank.
Yeah,
it's blank.
Same here. Yeah. So you can't access your subscriptions or anything else because YouTube decided that they're going to fix something that isn't broken and break stuff that used to work.
Yeah, I did notice that earlier and didn't think much to it, but then that's obviously what it is. I hadn't got that far.
My three bars are working. You click on my three bars and they work.
Yeah.
Do you get a menu?
Yeah, I get a menu, and the menu starts.
I don't get a menu. Mine's just blank.
Yeah.
What browser are you using, Gary?
Chrome.
I'm using Firefox. So
OS 10.
So there's a survey of two of the other browsers are available.
We don't recommend them, but they are available.
I was Firefox or Chrome's what I use. I mean, just sort of as a matter of course. So, what have we stumbled into talking to? Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world.
Are we talking? We're all live. Goodness
me. Now's the right time. I don't know where Ian is.
Didn't even know.
Probably doing something important. Probably doesn't want to talk about this new GoPro 10 with the ridiculous name or whatever it's called. It's not even called that, is it? But let's go back to this Market Surveillance Authority. So it is alleged that the UK has not created a market surveillance authority, something which until about 10 minutes ago I had never heard of. And that is something. I better read what is it? Market surveillance authorities, MSAs, monitor and, where appropriate, enforce the requirements of European product safety law using the powers and enforcement tools provided by UK law. It says in this answer, different authorities enforce different aspects of product safety legislation. And that bit of legislation we're talking about here really is the CE marking, not to be confused with the CE mark, the China export mark, but the CE marking for small RPAS or UAS that has been put back a year, I think, hasn't it, Mark?
It has by YASA. So if the DFT hasn't created that department yet, or whatever they need to do, and we are now in month 4. We've got a year to go. Now, don't get me wrong. There are companies out there that are saying they can do the CE marking in Europe anyway. So why it wouldn't be the same for here, I don't quite know why they couldn't use the same markings. But it looks like, there's still quite a bit of way to go on this. And I've got a sneaky feeling, we might do what the YASA's done and the EU and push it back a year.
Well, the company putting the mark on the aircraft, or the manufacturer putting a mark on an aircraft, is a little bit different to I've got to look back. What was it called again? The Market Surveillance Authority. That's a terrible name, isn't it, for a thing? A Market Surveillance
Authority. Surveillance. It's Big Brother, isn't it?
It's all there. Yeah, all the words are there. What a terrible name. But that body's got to make sure it's safe. And the link I put in the comments was to YASA Europa EO FAQ 135903. Which is how, as an individual, do I know what is valid? And that speaks to that.
Yes.
So
it doesn't stop these illegal stickers coming in. But what it'll mean is if Amazon's selling a drone and someone's sticking these dodgy stickers on, this authority will look at it and take the appropriate action required to remove them from the market.
Yeah. But the UK hasn't set up that authority. So does that mean the EU authority that has been set up will be the authority for everywhere? Because it's an EU marking. No, but
yeah,
it's an EU marking.
Yeah, it's not. See, if it was a European marking, that would be different because we're in Europe, so we are European.
Oh,
But it's not.
Europe, yeah.
Yeah, we're in Europe. We are European. No matter
You'll all be part of Russia soon. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, yeah,
maybe.
well.
Maybe. We
I've
started.
I've seen how their army works. I don't think so.
Well, Boris is your head man, so it's a bit of a start. Well, it's an interesting little thing, and yet another interesting wrinkle. That's popped up since the UK left the EU, but it's all meaningless because they don't exist. So I wonder in which year the first aircraft to have the official marking will actually come out. As you said, Mark, there's 2 companies that will sign off the ticket if your platform meets requirements. But there's obviously lots of other bits of this jigsaw to be fitted together. Where's Ian? Ian, I wanted to talk about this new camera. Well, what do you guys think of this new camera?
It's very grey, charcoaly almost. Almost charcoaly. I don't know what it's. I guess they just want to meet a market demand, but it's not really that much better than or different to the standard GoPro. It's lighter.
Very small market.
And it's so damn expensive. And also it has the aerodynamics of a small windowless building, which is one of the biggest problems with the GoPro form factor cameras. The Session was really popular because it had a really low drag, small, you could stick it, just a cube shape. And this whole GoPro format, if they're going to make it super lightweight or pare it down a bit, why not change the form factor? So it's like a Session, make a Session 5 or 6 or whatever it would be, and everyone would be happy. But the other problem with this thing is it's only available from GoPro Direct, I think, or in the USA. And I did read a comment this morning saying that there was in the US, they have Best Buy and these chains have this sort of warranty thing. You can buy a warranty, and if you smash your GoPro to smithereens, you get it replaced. Well, they won't be available for this unit, which is kind of like, well, one of the reasons GoPros were so popular is because when you smack them into a building at great speed, you just go and get another one. But if you can't do that and they're going to cost the same as the GoPro, will there be as much uptake as people think? I don't know, actually.
As John says, charge more for less, and Squishy's saying I saw it for $399, $400. Yeah, I'm not sure. So does this signal the start of the new GoPro drone, the GoPro FPV drone? Is that on its way now?
Well, it could be, couldn't it? What would they call it? The drama.
The drama. Yeah, I mean it bewilders me as to why they think this is a market worth. Well, I bet we could put. I bet the number will be in the not even 1,000. Yeah, not even 1,000. I don't suppose.
They're probably working on the fact that there will be a good volume of replacement units because they don't last that long on a drone. So in a freestyle drone, so people will have to buy new ones all the time. So there may only be 1,000 people that buy them, but they're probably going to buy 4 or 5 a year. So that puts the totals up.
I think the GoPro such. I've had the 3 and the 4, and they've been very good. But it does look that little video clip that they had on YouTube. It's just it does look rather smart, to be honest. And let's face it, if you look at the DJI FPV drone, the camera on that's not amazing, is it? However, you look at that new one from GoPro, and that looks really smart for those people that fly FPV and you want to record the action really well and you want the quality. It is looking like a bit of a winner, actually. It really is.
Well, Smith & said people are buying full GoPro and ripping it apart, even risky. Were they really? I am, as John says, I am a grumpy old man. So this grumpy old man was no way.
The sort of bare bones GoPro has been a thing. You can buy the 3D printed things and everything. Some people sell kits so you can pull your GoPro apart, put it in the new molding and have a really lightweight one. So people have been doing it, and this is a way to people avoid the risk of breaking it in the process. But there's things like the Insta360 SMO 4K, which is like a bare bones GoPro. Not as good because it has some terrible stepping in the exposure changes. but the resolution's good, and otherwise it's good. But it's the freestyle market, I don't know, because also remember we've got digital FPVs getting better and better, and a lot of the times I just use the straight feed from the DJI goggle. I record on the goggles, and it's good enough. Unless you're going to be doing motion pictures or something, it's good enough.
And that's where the market will be, because it's quite clear that FPV in films is starting to take off now. It's really starting to kick in, the FPV stuff for films and stuff. So I can see it's going to have its place.
Yeah, but a lot of movie producers won't use GoPro footage. It's not good enough. That's why you get these bigger quads with reds on them and things flying the same sort of thing. GoPro doesn't meet Netflix's requirements and that sort of stuff. If you want to produce, this sort of thing, you've got to have all the right gear, and GoPro just doesn't cut it. Even the GoPro 10, it's just not good enough. So it's for not so much, I think, for studio production work as for people that just want really good videos. And even then, you've got to look at the price, and I don't know, because remember, you're risking that camera every time you take it up in the air.
Yes. Did I see a film where it was Michael Bay and they did this big explosion, and they did fly the smaller quads with GoPros on straight through the explosions as it's all going off? They had 2 or 3 of them, wasn't it? If I remember correctly. So for that kind of stuff, when you've got a camera, if it's in 4K and stuff, and you don't, destroying a Red Epic, for example, or an Alexa Mini, you don't want to destroy 50, 80 grand's worth of camera, because that's just not wise. And you could just pound those little things into just to get that little 10-second or 2-second shot, that little 3-second shot.
Have you seen how much they spend on these movies? Hundreds of millions of dollars. The odd area of red here and there, that's nothing.
They'll drop.
They used a red in that movie too. It was a red. It was a special frame set up with a red. In fact, if you look at a lot, if you look behind the scenes, a lot of sort of professional freestyle drone flyers now are showing, and they're building much bigger rigs with the reds or the Aries on them, and flying those, because that's what they have to do to get the quality of footage that's needed.
Well, as you said, it's got to be on the list, isn't it? If it's not on the approved camera list, then you're not coming in. It's as simple as that.
I do know of a company in the UK. There's I've forgotten the names now. Mark will shoot me for this, for forgetting his name, but he does build a heavy lift that's got a camera top mounted. You can put a Sony's on it and stuff.
We had him on the show, didn't we? I can't remember his name either. There's the new one that's come out. I know.
Yeah. Sorry, Mark.
Yeah. Well, it it bewilders me, that market. I suppose it allows them to get some exposure in the press for what it's worth, a tiny bit of micro exposures a day. But I'd be really surprised if they sell 1,000 of those. And John's saying GoPro would never be interested in such a small market. No, they certainly wouldn't. So see what they did to the Archipilot project and to the I forgot the Solo, and not releasing the SDK to control the thing. So I don't know what that's about. Was it Deadliest Catch?
Yeah, that's Tommy's shooting that. He did quite a good video on behind the scenes sort of thing, and they were using a smaller quad, but that's just a sort of a reality TV series. I think is it on Discovery Plus or something? It's not on Netflix, so it's not movie quality, it's just reality TV quality.
And I thought it was very interesting that they named a couple of shoots that the thing had been on in the PR today, one of them being that fly through of the Tesla factory. So that was quite clever. You probably find that that's more of where this is. Look what you can shoot with a GoPro. Look how cool we are. There's the Tesla factory.
I still want to see someone drive through a drone factory. That's got to be far more exciting.
Well, if it's a DJI one, the drone just flies from assembly point to assembly point, doesn't it?
Well, they fly. Yeah, they fly themselves, don't they? They fly through little bits of the factory. Actually, on the official page for the camera, Johnny, we'll Well, you might be frustrated, but is it because you care too much? I mean, at the end of the day, who cares?
And does it matter if you're going to buy a naked GoPro from GoPro? You're going to buy it. Doesn't matter what the specs are, because you probably think, oh, naked GoPro, I'll have one of those. It's the people who are going to buy it will buy it. It's like anything. It's a niche market, and usually in niche markets, there are people who just buy stuff because it's there and it's because it's what they want. You don't have to sell it to them. They just you make it available. Look at Apple, make it available. They'll buy it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sits it on the quad in the box in the car that never actually flies. But look what I've got. I've got that camera.
Oh, don't. I saw someone, they bought a Mavic 3, I think the Cine, and then they're selling it because they want the new M30. It's like, for crying out loud.
They'll probably sell it for the new Inspire 3.
Oh, yeah. Leaks out today. Yeah. Oh. And that's just like, so boring. Come on, let's have something interesting and exciting coming out in the world, not the same old Sono.
The new DJI M40 with anti-tank capability. That's what they need.
Well, did you see the breakdown of the Russian drone?
Yeah. Yeah, if anyone in the comments does know what the autopilot is, because people are asking me and I can barely see it. People are saying that's the autopilot and sending me pictures of a board, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure that is the autopilot, and not some sort of RTK or some sort of GPS unit for the cameras. But yeah, they took apart the cameras on that, saying how they're not really up to all that, but they are basically what's on all the American stuff.
But it's what's in most mapping drones.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's. I do wonder if it's streaming that stuff back live, though. So obviously you always get a feed back, but I wonder if it's taking a photo, sending it back, or if they're using
it's Russian technology. It prints it out onto paper, and then they fly back in and they get the paper out. It's a built-in printer, and they get the paper and they look, dead man walking. Look.
Live,
you don't read your email.
Live from a hotel. Don't read my emails. I just looked at my emails, and I'm getting an email from you.
So I sent an email the other three.
Yeah, we got one. You just didn't get it.
I didn't get. So what beer have you got with you? That's what's more important.
Unfortunately, I don't feel very well again. Unfortunately,
and
I'm just
sorry.
seem to be limping from
that's
one
the vaccination at work.
As you can see, I am away. I'm in another hotel room. And the plan was to have an early night, but I can't sleep. So I thought I may as well come
on.
Yeah, we can help with that.
Yeah, we can get you to sleep straight away.
That's why I'm just going to lie in the bed.
Is this a good time to tell him that on a Sunday I quite often go to sleep with him? But that's a different thing altogether. But because it's like, for me, your live stream's like 1 a.m. for me, so I'm already beginning. I'm already on my way.
So secretly, you've been sleeping with Ian.
I've been sleeping with Ian. Yes, most Sunday nights.
I'm a very lucky man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And for those of you who don't know, Ian has a stream on Sunday night at, I don't know, whatever GMT, because he doesn't say GMT.
I really load it in advance. Most of the time, it's like 20 minutes before I think, I better put this onto YouTube. I did notice actually this week.
That sounds awfully familiar to me.
I did it in the morning, and it made quite a difference actually. So I do need to learn to pull my finger out, and I should book it a month in advance. I wonder if YouTube will share it a little bit better. No, it's been an interesting day. I sort of started catching you guys talking about the GoPro thing. Sorry, I missed that. So
is that interesting, or is that just rubbish?
It is and it isn't. I think there's more to it than it looks, in the sense of I wouldn't be shocked if it's a play to shift more product, because it's a minimal change from a manufacturing point of view for out-and-out circuitry and boards. So if they've put down X amount of boards and they're not shifting as well, what they've changed is casing and ancillaries. So in some ways, it's a very clever move. I think it's what people have been asking for, although what I found really interesting is about 50% of the community is screaming that it's not good enough, and 50% of the community are really happy. It's not as light as it can be if you decase one yourself. But then again, they're having to make a product which is a consumer product which you can buy, and they have to warrant and put warranty on and all of that. So I think they've done very well for what they've done. It fills a hole in the market. It's like 2 or 3 grams more weight than the small DJI. But as Bruce will know, the GoPro is just a better camera. There's no question the GoPro is a better camera in almost every way. So I think it's a clever way of gauging the market, because if they sell a load of these, they can then sit back and go, it cost us very little to do market research, and now we can put effort into actually designing a very dedicated custom one. People have complained about the price. There's going to be cost in the manufacturing of this. It's a lower volume product, different casings. I think the biggest complaint I've seen is that it's not a session, but I don't think they can make them anymore, can they? And that's the problem. They literally have a problem that due to it being, who owns it? Is it Runcam own the license on that?
No, it was Polaroid, I think, invented the first tube camera, but Runcam still make their 5 and 5S and all that sort of thing. No one cares.
No, I think one thing that has been interesting is it's not available in the UK and EU. I suspect that is due to RF regulations or RF emissions. My bets would be we're a bit more stringent than the US on that side of things. I wouldn't be shocked if they've had a hard time keeping it in check, because they've basically removed a lot of the RF shielding. They've removed a lot of stuff. And in fact, GoPros have been renowned for being quite noisy, even in their casings. I think I had a Hero 5 that you couldn't use Wi-Fi because it would just go over the top of the microphone that was built in. You just had that constant interference noise. So I suspect that's probably the reason it's not available in the UK and EU. But I think it's okay. I think at the end of the day, they didn't tell anyone they were going to do it. It was kept very, very quiet. Like no leaks from all of the FPV guys have had it. Well, I'm not going to say all. There is 1 or 2 who haven't, 1 or 2 big ones as well, actually. And there was nothing. There hasn't been a nod, a hint, you might not want to wait and buy a GoPro for a bit. So it's interesting. I think at the end of the day, it's a product people are making themselves. Now they can go and get one from the factory and keep your warranty. That's not a bad thing, is it? Let's be honest.
But how many people are doing that? I'm sorry, They're definitely
small numbers.
Late to this.
Yeah, it is small numbers. But what will be interesting is what is the numbers of people who will now buy this over the standard Hero 10? That's the real interesting one. Is this going to be, are they going to shift 10,000 units, 20,000, 50, 100? It's estimated the FPV quad flying community is about 750,000 users to 1 million, somewhere in that estimate. 500 to 750,000, 500,000 active users, according to Betaflight, roughly. So the community is probably 1 million strong. If they can shift 100,000 units, that's viable. So,
mind you, around here, I don't know one person that flies a GoPro on their freestyle quad.
No. The cost even bought me. I looked at the price, went, ooh, it's heavy. And one big restriction of this is a lot of the guys buy it through B&H in America, who have really good warranty options. You pay like $50 and you can have 2 or 3 replacements or something like that. But they're only selling this direct a minute as well. So that is also going to be a restriction. I think if they really want to gauge the market, they need to make it available in the US fully and shove it into dealers, and let's then see what the numbers look like.
Can you control it in any way? Sorry, John's mentioned, can you control it?
Yes and no. You can fully control it via the app, via Wi-Fi. So it's got all the functionality via that. Although something we have noticed is you can't turn the Wi-Fi off, which is a little bit worrying. What effect that's going to have on other things. We know what GoPro have been like in the past. I would have liked to have seen something like when you start recording, the Wi-Fi stops. That would be a nice feature to have. So when you hit record, the Wi-Fi disables.
Yeah, but it doesn't have a screen, so maybe they'll give you an ability to view through the phone for framing and so forth.
It would be nice if you could have it so you could turn that on as an option. So you can frame via the live feed and then when you hit record, it kills the Wi-Fi, just as an option. So at least that way you've got something, and then they could re-enable it. There is also a serial input which allows activation of recording via UART on Betaflight as well. So they've put some thought into it. You know, it's not out and out just a new case. There's a little bit of thought there. I think at the end of the day, it's a benefit more than it's a hindrance for FPV. It's not cheaper. People have said, why isn't it cheaper? But the reality is the screen's probably, what, Bruce, $3? If that. The volumes, they're buying them in $3 to $6 for a touch LCD screen. The battery, a couple of dollars. Probably they're saving $15 in components. The volume cost of the new casing alone has probably swallowed that up. So that's probably why the pricing isn't any better. They've had to pay for the moldings. If they think it's a low volume product, might be thinking, well, you know what, we're going to charge for it, and if people want it, they'll pay for it. That's what I do.
Fair enough. So what do you reckon? They got 10,000 sat on the shelf. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that it's the same core board. So what it does, and it's a clever move, is they can produce both cameras. They can choose which way production goes. So if these sell really quick, they can just, it's only casings and maybe a power board. That's it. That's the difference. So they've got a lot of flexibility here now. They can push it to that line, push it to that line. I think GoPro's weird problem is they've been making some really good high-end cameras and really sort of not ripping people off, but just the lower models are really not good value in any shape or form. And it would be good to see them move more to maybe a modular setup for their cameras where you all get the same base camera and then features come on depending on which model, because you go down to the silver and the whites and they're not good buys at all. They're really not.
I have no idea anymore of what the GoPro camera lineup or options are. I really have not got a clue. I haven't flown a GoPro on a drone probably for 7 or 8 years. Someone
said Smith on Monday. They're also in Real Steady as well, which is a bit of a token, because you've got to remember it is worth $99, but it's also free to them because they own it. So,
and also remember, there's now public domain of open source software, which is damn near as good. So it's almost to drag you in. And I haven't seen, is that permanently or is that for 12 months? Because that might only be for 12 months as well. I'm not sure. GoPro are the best action cameras on the market, period. They have leaped everyone by a long shot. DJI is probably 80% there. Image quality, probably 90%. Stabilization, probably 80%. Their cameras at their best are untouchable for their size, but the pricing is the price of a small, decent mirrorless camera. They are $400 now for the most part. So you are paying for that, and you can get a good Sony for that. You can get a camcorder for half the price. I'm wondering if I should actually make a naked camcorder. That would be interesting exercise, wouldn't it?
Because once you take 400 grams,
once you don't the zoom mechanism or anything, you could probably whittle one down to a reasonably small size. When you look at the size of the board, take away all those manual controls, and just basically get the minimum electronics and the sensor and a lens setup.
Yeah, I think in all the downings, it's good to see. I think at the end of the day, there is really no lose here. Because if you weren't going to buy a GoPro, then you weren't, and you're not going to buy this. If you were going to buy a GoPro to buy a naked one, to make it naked, then you may as well just buy this and still have your warranty. And if you were going to buy a full-size one, then you can still buy the full-size one. There is literally no downside here.
No downside to it. Yeah, fair play. Well, you've convinced me. I'm afraid I am the old curmudgeon. Definitely tonight. I still like Mir, so what? So Inspire 3.
I was a bit disappointed in what I saw.
So was I.
That's what it. I'm not convinced that is. I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if that's a pre-launch Inspire 2. It looked, or I don't know. It looked very, very similar to what we've got today. I didn't see anything fundamental.
Yeah.
I've missed this. What Inspire 3?
Someone's crashed, apparently, the Inspire 3. And I'll be honest, it looks like a tweaked Inspire 2 from what we've seen. There isn't a lot to see because it's in a pretty bad shape. Same arms marks, same bits. Changed the transition mechanism, looks different. There's no question about that. The transition does. And that would sort of align because there's been rumors that the Inspire 3 is going to fold the arms. Currently, it transitions like that. And there's talk of it transitioning more like that. So sort of like that and like that, basically, to fold flat. And you can sort of see it in the mechanism. But if that is the Inspire 3, so far the basic craft doesn't look dramatically different to what we've got today. It's still a Dragon Skull design. Okay, it's not got a payload on it. It looks like it's flying 2 TB50s, but it won't. I think we all know it'll be something new because DJI are going to put a new battery on it. That's inevitable. It could be anything. It could... If you take car manufacturers into account, there's often they'll put cars out with new engines in which look like the old car and stuff like that. I'm not convinced. If that is it, I'm a bit disappointed. It is, if I'm honest. It would be nice to see a bit of a change on the Inspire 2 now. It's a good design. It works very well. I suppose, actually, the design has never been the problem with the Inspire 2. It's the lack of them actually getting it to work properly has been the fundamental problem from day one. There's been issues on all of them. They've never quite got it right, whether it be the first one with flight behavior. It moves around about a meter and a half in the box. It's not particularly stable. The cameras were okay. The Inspire 2 has some pretty big annoyances, gimbal performance, camera rotation. Just you'll sit there and the camera will rotate itself. They've never got the Inspire series tuned like the Mavics. The Mavics off the shelf have been very, very good. The Inspire have always had niggles, which they've not been able to tie down. So perhaps the Inspire 3 will be the Inspire that actually works properly on day one. But if the Mavic 3 is anything to go by, I wouldn't hold your hopes.
I've forgotten the latest sagas with the Mavic 3. There's been some sagas this week, hasn't there? What's there been? Oh, it's just still the GPSing. Oh, and if you haven't watched it, Ian's fantastic GPS video.
Yeah, how to lose $80 because I'll earn £80 because I'll only get 10 back from the ad revenue and everything else on that one. So
is that one?
But what you lose in profit, you make up in volume.
What
is it not gone mad? Or is it just?
It won't. It would never recover itself. There was a hope. I sort of made a point in it going, if you found this interesting, I'd appreciate if people would donate just to try and recover the cost. It's gone down well and badly because for some reason, a bunch of people, and very kindly went on DJI Forum, a couple of others, and went, Ian's going to give us the answers. And that was never what it was intended to be. What it was intended to be was address some very specific allegations that were made about the GPS chipset and the module. And that's what we did. The chipset's fine, the module's fine. It's not the best, it's not the worst. It works absolutely fine. I could 3D print a plastic case for it and use it in any drone. It's nothing particularly special. It's nothing particularly bad. But there isn't what was said wrong with it. That's reality. I still fundamentally think their issue is Beidou. I think it's Beidou. I personally think any fix will involve bringing GLONASS back in to the mix, because we haven't discussed this actually. I don't think, have we?
No.
I think in the end, I think Beidou. Some really interesting observations is when I look at all of the data and watch the acquisition, and when you're just watching GPS, you get a feeling for what it's doing. Some really interesting observations was GLONASS very quickly has 5 to 7 satellites at all times. Doesn't matter what time of day, what time of what anything, there's always a chunk of sats there. Whereas with Galileo and Beidou, you're often on 1 or 2 on each for a while, and then it takes a bit more time to drag the others in. I don't know, is that because uBlock's having to run 3 systems, not 2? It does have a lower refresh rate in 3 systems. You're having to run it at 3 hertz instead of 5, which you can do on 2. But there was an interesting comment they've made about areas that have high latitude, which would imply this may be related to the actual horizontal angle of the satellites on the Beidou system in relation to the horizon, and whether it's struggling to get good 3D fix. And I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if the fix ends up being an algorithm which chooses the best system.
And isn't well? I'm just thinking China doesn't go up too far, does it? I'm sorry, China's below Russia, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have an interest in having too much of a polar.
And they probably would never have seen the issues. Frankly, even as tested as this aircraft was, and okay, some people are seeing 10-minute wait times. That seems off. I was very close to going and buying one, but it would have been a waste of £2,000. I was really close to going, let's really have a look at this, because there are people who've shown it sitting there on 0 sats for like 4 minutes. And I'd love to look at what uBlocks is doing at that point, because that'll give us the answers. We'll understand at that point what's going on. The hacking guys seem to think they've made a silly mistake in their software, not uBlocks, and they think probably the uBlocks module's ticking away absolutely fine in the background, and DJI software is either ignoring it, not communicating properly, or doing something. We don't know what communication they're using, because you can use USB, CAN, I2C, or UART from the module. I hooked into the UART, but we don't know about what they're actually using for the internal comms as well.
I'll just always refer to having a decent ground plane for one. Put that tinfoil underneath the unit.
Mount it on your hat, Gary. Mount it on your hat.
Of course, yeah. On top of the tinfoil hat, exactly right. But
there is something interesting when you look at uBlocks as well. uBlocks have not updated their M8 firmware since 2017. And that is the same firmware that is being used pretty much on every M8 module and everything.
Wow.
And there has been close to no major use case of Beidou. So I do wonder if there is something underlying here that hasn't really been seen, especially in combination with Galileo. There are times where you'll get like 20 sats show and it's fantastic, but there are times where it seems to sit there and go, I've got 2 on one and 3 on the other, and I'm not even locking, and it would just sit there not moving forward, and you'd sort of go, why isn't it getting into lock? It can see them, but it's not proceeding into the lock phase. So I don't know. We don't.
There must be some compare and contrast in there somewhere that's telling it, hang on a minute. Hang on. I'm not sure. If it's looking at each of them and it's got big discrepancies, especially with the Beidou, it might be saying, hang on, just wait a second before we go. Let's have another think about this, which wouldn't be a bad idea for DJI if you did that, because it's going to stop the flyaways. And
this is something, because some people said, it was caused by a firmware update. The problem is we don't know what they were using before the firmware update. For all we know, they were using GLONASS. For all we know, they weren't actually doing what they said they were doing in the specification. The reality is we don't actually know, and that's the problem. I don't think there's anything fundamentally wrong with the module. I think they will tweak it as well. I think they'll probably get it fixed. There's no reason to think they can't fix this. They've never had problems like this before. So the logic is, what changed? The SAT systems, something around that. The only thing I'm a bit concerned they can't do is, if it is a uBlocks issue and uBlocks was to push an update, and they are glacial in their pace at doing updates, I'm not convinced they can update the firmware on the module, because they've got no flash. And usually the reason you have flash on the GPS is for updates and the basic config, but they're pushing their config from their flight controller. So I'm just not sure if they can. uBlocks state you can't, so I can only go by uBlocks. But even if it's a uBlocks problem, there won't be firmware for 5 years, so don't worry about it.
It could be something like that. There's 3. It uses 3, doesn't it, Ian? I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd love to know how it resolves the differences. because you've got 3 systems all giving different information. How do you choose which ones? And do you do average? Do you interpolate? What do you do? It just becomes a mathematical nightmare.
There's a lot going on here because, when it first connects to 3, it's got to download the almanac data off 3, and that's up from a complete cold boot. And it can't do all of that at the same time. So there's going to be processing overhead. So download one bit of data, download the next bit of data, download the next bit of data. Then it's got to download all of the individual satellite data from each system. So there is a lot potentially going on, and it does seem to behave differently with 2 than 3. Definitely seems to be something between a system of 2, and it could just be that reduction in refresh rate from 5 to 3 hertz. You run the modules at 10 hertz with one system, my God, it's like on a rocket. They do run well on 10 hertz, all of them.
But it only seems to be some Mavic 3s. It's not all of them. It's like half of them do, half of them don't.
I think the
it depends on location.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Put on a map, don't they? They need to be put on a map.
You need 3 craft next to each other or 2. And look, you've got someone who says, oh, my GPS has taken 4 minutes. Well, that could just be normal on that day. We's the line of what's right and what's wrong. And it's like, 3 red cars in a row doesn't mean everyone should buy a red car. It doesn't mean everyone's got the same GPS problem, is it? And that's the problem. And when you're dealing with the internet, you're dealing with everything that's blown up. This could be 50 craft with a problem. Just 50 people. I remember, and I think I said this in the video, I remember when the gimbal fell off the Mavic 2 Pro, I was actually helping DJI run their Facebook group. One guy dropped his brand new one and it hit the table and it broke the gimbal at the arm. And what it did was unstick the motor, and it showed that the motor was actually glued to the gimbal arm, and the internet melted down for 4 hours. So much so, if I recall, we actually closed the DJI groups to new members because it was out of control, the amount of people coming in going, have you seen this? It was one person who dropped one craft, and that turned into every one of these got design fault. Since then, they never had another one do it. So it just shows one thing can be very, very vocal. And what is interesting in all of this is there's about 10 to 20 people who are very, very loud.
Okay.
So I'm not saying there isn't a wider spread issue, but how many are really facing issues in the real world?
It's very interesting. It's very interesting. So what else has happened this week, gentlemen?
Amazon drone delivery sucks.
You're determined to make me grumpy at every single outcome this week. Yeah.
But Google's going from strength to strength. How about that?
They've opened up in Dallas, haven't they? I think this week, moving more pointless things from ice cream. I saw being touted as an amazing thing that could move. Like, my word, the world definitely needs. At no time in history has the world needed quick ice cream delivery.
Did you see someone calculated the price of drone deliveries at this stage? Did you see what that figure was?
Go on then now.
I think it was like $40-something per delivery.
Yeah,
maybe more. Okay, you're going to deliver me a pizza, a $10 pizza, and I'm going to pay $40 for delivery. I don't see how that works.
Yeah, no, it's all nonsense. And the Amazon thing, I mean, I knew a couple of people that were in the UK office, and that was when they were trying to do it there because America was never going to allow it this or the last century. And they never did. They seem to have meetings within meetings within meetings within meetings. Scardio donated to the war. That's interesting. We'll come back to that. But yeah, they never seem to be serious about it from day one. But I think they got their mileage out of the press with their Jeremy Clarkson adverts at Christmas. So I think it worked for them in the way they wanted it to work. I don't believe they ever meant to really do it. But they got the mileage. They got the press. Amazon got the views it needed.
And now they have a really good fire starter, aerial fire starter they can sell.
Yeah, absolutely. Squishy saying that Scardios have donated to the war. Yeah, hearing about quite a few people leaving Scardio, which is always an interesting sign. Quite a few of the developers as well. So something's amok there. They've got to be giving. Everyone's going to be giving something to the war, but DJI have definitely given lots to both sides. Of this, we can be no doubt at all now, having seen the boxes and boxes.
Product or data?
But well, it either doesn't matter. They can sell the data, they're selling the product, they're selling the counter UAS system, they're making money from both sides all day long. So fair play.
That's what arms dealers do.
Yeah, fair play to them. Fair play. All options are available.
I mean, I think we're giving. Well, we're probably selling them the rockets to take the big drones out of the sky, aren't we? As well.
Yeah.
It is funny.
I wrote a column this morning. It's amazing how warfare has changed. Air superiority used to be the thing, and tanks were really good because tanks were the major battlefield weapon. And these days, tanks are useless. Helicopters are useless because of the man-pad, the shoulder-mounted smart missile. And I think I said last week, but why do we still have men in tanks? Surely of all the vehicles we could automate and make remotely piloted, tanks would be the most sensible one. They don't travel fast, and so you've got plenty of time to respond. And if you are in a tank and it gets hit by one of these missiles, well, you're just sort of a red mist inside. So get men out of the danger area. Why, we've got unmanned aerial aircraft. Why not unmanned tanks? It makes no sense to me.
Thing is, we can do it tomorrow, Bruce, as well. The tech is basic, isn't it? There's nothing here. Even if the guys are remote within a couple of 100 meters, they can still be safer than in the bloody thing that's getting shot at. It's quite funny, Gary, when you mentioned that earlier. And I'm not saying DJI do this by any means, but it is interesting. You can have a manufacturer that is selling their product to both sides, selling their product to detect the product to both sides.
Their own product, yeah.
To stop each side from being able to use that product against each other. So all that happens is all of the money goes to that manufacturer, and they're left in the same position as if they didn't have it at all, basically.
So you can see it now, Russia versus Ukraine for a year, and the winner is China.
Yeah. Well, it is crazy. But going back to making the tanks driverless, it seems illogical that they have people in them, like you say. It seems if you've got an 80-ton tank and all your team is behind it, and you've got a team of those tanks, you could just send them in, just roll them in. But today you would have a connected battlefield, surely. So all you need is a few Apaches with the radar domes on. They can pop up. They see the battlefield. You've then got the tanks that will automate with no one in them. Just take out everything. Less mile delivery. Well, it'd be less what? It was less 4 mile delivery with those things.
Kinetic last mile delivery.
Put trebuchets on them, you'd be fine.
That is the last mile delivery. That is the new term for ground based.
Mind you, that was to Amazon. I've seen how they deliver parcels.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they can help
Nick,
you
hello,
clean
Nick.
yourselves.
Nick can send an autonomous train, I believe. If that's still what he does. Good evening to you, Nick. Lovely to see you here. Hope the family's well.
Is it because infantrymen are much cheaper to train and more disposable than pilots?
The equipment, yeah. It would cost more for the flight controller than they value the life of the person in the air.
Well, at the moment with the current chip shortage, they'd be very, very, very expensive for flight control.
I may put my NAS 32 boards on the Russian equivalent of eBay. See what happens, eh?
Well, isn't there a wafer company or something in Wales that's up for sale, and China wants to buy it at the minute, which would be a shame. It needs to stay in the UK. It needs to stay UK controlled.
In Wales, I haven't heard anything, but I might be missing it. There's a huge amount going on today. You've had Intel's announcement, massive announcements in the US. They've been opening up their new fab. They spent a mere $15 billion on the new fab in the US.
Can you see what's coming? Can you see what's coming from all this? The cycle of glut and short. We're going to have this massive glut of production capability. The price of semiconductors is going to fall through the floor. There'll be all sorts of scandals about clearing RAM stocks at below cost. It's going to be great. Just give us 5 to 10 years.
Because Intel are opening up their foundries as well, and that hasn't never happened. At the moment there's a shortage, and Intel are in the process of transferring. They're moving away from all of their internal tools to more standardized tools for designing and prototyping and being able to produce chipsets to allow them to become an open foundry for other chip manufacturers as well. And they've never done that before. Intel have always been in-house. So Intel, as part of their diversification, are looking to actually produce chips for other companies. So as Bruce says, you've got Global Foundries expanding, TSMC, I'll get it in a minute, expanding, and Intel putting in crazy amounts of money. And then there's going to be a point where it's going to be all of this comes online. It might be 2, 3, 4 years, and then how cheap do you want your STM32?
Well, it's got to happen at some point, because the way it is at the minute, as we know, there's been we lost a foundry to a fire, didn't we? So we lost one chip place to a fire. There was already the shortage. Car producers can't get the chips to make the cars. The car prices have gone up. It's just, at the minute, it's just crazy. It really is.
Yeah, but it's cyclic. It's happened before. It'll happen again. And
yes.
As I say, we'll have that. Looking at that, what Nick said, interesting that if we look at Brendan, they seem to be more interested in making dogs for the battlefield, robotic dogs for the battlefield, than just retrofitting a few tanks, don't they?
Oh, well, Boston Dynamics will have their running soldiers, won't they? It'd be Terminator all over with their running robot. It'd be little crabs. Was it the replicators from Stargate? Do you ever see Stargate?
They're good, because when you shoot them, they just go into little pieces and then reform. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, wheels and tracks are overrated, aren't they? In a lot of ways.
It only takes an RPG to knock the tracks off a tank.
The RG Pilot's got you can drive these things now, and it's just they're just weird and fun and amusing. You're not too late, Rev. Never too late.
When will Boston Dynamics be putting one of their dogs on Mars? That's what I want to see.
Oh yeah,
but I think they've got a very short or narrow window on that dog thing. People are going to, or have caught up, and there's plenty of replicas of that, and then plenty of there's plenty of good copies of it. I think it's a very narrow window of opportunity to get the sales.
Who was it that did the original? Was it RBO or something or other? Was it Honda or someone? Who did that first little dog? It was a little pet dog you could buy in Japan.
Sony.
Oh, it was Sony.
Sony, was it? Yeah.
Sony did one, but I don't think. Yeah, I think in their warehouse robots and things like that, perhaps they've got a bit more of a future because they're very specialist. But that dog, I don't know. They're trying to sell them here for an absolute fortune.
Only $100,000 a pop or something.
Yeah, I don't know. But they said they can walk around and carry a hammer. It's like, yeah, well,
you can put saddlebags on them.
How many 16-year-olds can you pay to carry a hammer around your building? So K9, yes, K9. That's the original and the best.
Yes,
by a long way. You're muted there, Ian. Still,
sorry, the Sony dogs. Yeah, these things never caught on with the rest of the world, did they? If you ever watch James May, the man in Japan, he had the little doll which would tell you where you are, and we just never really had those things over here. It never really became a thing.
Well, here we are. Look, Squishy's a four-wheeler drone with M60 turret years ago. Darth Maul watercraft. Yeah, the Ripsaw tank. But they're not out there, are they? They're all still, again, like the robot dog. They're fictions of people's imagination, mostly. To see 100 of them coming over the way.
Perhaps because there's no other peacetime use, whereas with flying drones, there's lots of peacetime applications.
Well, maybe. Yes, I suppose so. Because the cannon on a tank is kind of the thing that excludes you from peacetime use, isn't it? Demolition. What else could we have?
Pizza delivery.
Pizza delivery, long-range pizza delivery, over-the-hedge pizza delivery. Yeah. They don't tell you out there. I bet there's not many out there, Squishy. I bet there's not as many out there as you might think. That whole thing over there is very interesting. That Orlan 10 didn't surprise me at all at how poor the technology, or perceived poor the technology was in it. But if it works, if it flies for 6 or 7 hours and gets imagery back, that's good enough. Doesn't need to be any better than that. Doesn't need to have the Gorgon stare of some of the US platforms.
I mean, It's you got to remember it's only 2.5. Was it 3 meter wingspan or something? It wasn't massive, was it?
No.
So it's not a big machine. All you need is a basic flight controller in it, basic camera. If you want to encrypt the signal back, you'll put a decent comms unit in it. But that's all you need. And you've got a drone that can do X amount of flying. It's cheap to check out the door, isn't it?
Cheap is the word. It's an economic war as well as a military one. If you can build your drones for 1/10 the price of your enemy, and you can afford to lose 10 times as many and still only suffer the same amount of economic loss.
Yeah, exactly.
I wasn't so keen to pull that apart as other has. It's good enough, isn't it? It gets the job done. That Balayka, however you say it, the Turkish one is better, but it's not that much better.
And it's
a
2
lot
million
more expensive. Yeah.
2 million quid. I mean,
and how much is a Predator these days?
Look, if you have to ask, sir, you can't possibly afford one. So there's no need coming into my showroom for them. Yeah, no, it's interesting stuff all around. And I think at the bottom line, Ukraine is just look at the value of determination and courage, and just going for it.
What we need is a cheap, low cost homemade cruise missile, I reckon.
Maybe so.
Funny enough, I think Germany does make some fantastic little jet engines that could possibly maybe used for such a task.
Mil-spec means low cost. And even in Mac, gosh, everyone's forgetting the time constraints, aren't they? So we've had a pop at DJI, we've had a pop at the war in Ukraine, we've had a pop at GoPro. Who's next? ST's rockets, yes. Lots and lots of them. Who's next in the crosshairs for this evening?
Ian could suggest someone.
No,
Can he?
No, nothing. I'm going to try and behave. I've been upsetting enough people this week as it is. Have you got your new radio, Bruce?
Oh, hang on.
Oh, is that the new version of the T16 or whatever it was?
Oh, there it is.
He's got it. He's got
Still sealed.
Shiny. Go on, live unboxing. And what's backstory with Misuse UK? Yes, I am, Nick. I am aware of that. And it's happening again in the delivery space. But anyway, we'll move quickly on from that. And as well as the pilot training space. But anyway, so that T16, what's new about it, and why should we care?
Yes, it's basically a tidy up. It's a refresh. There's a few bits and pieces they made the detent stronger in the little sliders on the side. I like that. That's important. And they've got the touchscreen working with Edge TX and that all. But I don't like these color screens. I can't. In fact, I'm thinking of designing my own radio around my own personal likes. And I've got so many transmitters here. I'll just pull bits out of them and build one. I wish I had a 3D printer to make the case, but I'll carve it out of granite or something. But I want the color screen's fine. If you're sitting inside in an evening and you're setting everything up, that's great. But when you go out to the field, you can't see to change models. So what I want is a simple black and white screen, monochrome LCD screen, just reflective with backlighting that you can use at the field just to change models and do the basics that you need to do in full sunlight. And then the color screen can be there as well, but only when you want to do all the fancy stuff. That's what I think would be an ideal compromise.
In my head now, I've got a big old-fashioned glass black and white TV and a cat's whiskers. I see you there, and a 30-foot long antenna sticking
and
out.
Selenium rectifiers.
I'm seeing it all there. I'm seeing it in a lovely wooden case. You wouldn't make it out of granite. Lovely oak case.
Free Sky proposed making a transmitter like that with a monochrome and a color screen. That's one of the best things they ever proposed. I don't think they ever built it. But I saw one of the new X20 Free Sky radios at the field on the weekend. It's very expensive, heavy as a brick, and it's got so many things that I would never use. It's interesting to see that Free Sky have obviously lost the middle and the bottom ground. They've lost that to Radio Master because they were stupid. Now they're trying to get the top line, the expensive stuff. So they're moving right up the quality and the price point. The problem is that when I look at the jet planes or the jet flyers at our field that come and visit, none of them use any Chinese radio. They've got jetties or some expensive $3,000 radio systems. They're not going to buy any of these supposedly upmarket Chinese radios. So I don't know what the market for them is.
I'm going to bail out, guys, because I need to go to bed.
Don't forget to pull a ripcord, mate.
Look after yourselves. Stay safe, guys.
Take care. All right, look after yourself. Cheers. In. Well, that lightning in the videos. If you haven't seen Bruce's video with that lightning that's a thing of beauty, isn't it? That model is just amazeballs, and I cannot. You wouldn't trust that to a cheap radio, would you?
You see the radio he's using. It's got Alcantara down the sides, and it's all really flashy. And it's a great big screen. It's like, it's not a Chinese radio.
Yeah. No, it's a lovely, lovely, lovely model. He flies it in such a scale way as well. It just looks the ticket. And I thought if you haven't watched the video, I can't remember the name of on Bruce's channel what the video was called, but the chap has an off. But I thought he acted pretty quick, really, to get on that grass in the time he had to think about it.
Yeah, there's actually I've done quite a few of those sort of hyper realistic videos recently. It shows you just what you can do with a really good model and a little bit of time in editing.
No, I enjoyed that video. That was really good. Do you know, Ian's gone, I reckon. Is there anything else? Because if we get out of here in 1 minute and 20, we might manage to do an hour, which is extraordinary.
An hour?
It would only be like 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second.
Well,
too late.
How long was it? Yeah. So I might
look at the live.
look out. Oh no!
Look up here. Look up here. Just in time for us to go. Louis arrived. Oh, what's this?
This is 59. What's it say? Video broadcast.
It's Jensen Wang. Hi.
He's broadcasting live from India.
I'm sorry, guys. I don't have a camera here. So
where are you?
Don't be sorry. We're quite pleased with that.
Oh, thank you, Bruce. You wouldn't see my competition on Whitebeard, but that's okay.
And where are you in the world?
It's just a shame he's got a microphone.
Oh, thank you, Bruce. No worries. No, I'm back in Portugal. I've been wandering around and was entertained to see Bruce's latest additions. Come on, he didn't put huge RC plane crash. It missed the fire, so to be complete, we would need the fire.
Yes.
But perhaps Bruce knows, why do all jet planes try to land on fumes or without engine?
They have a lot of residual thrust. Actually, even with the throttle cut right back, especially some of the earlier engines have quite a bit of residual thrust. So it is actually hard to slow them down sometimes. So they're always reluctant to add more power because you end up going forever.
Yeah. So, for instance, that big plane, a touch and go would be in order to avoid that scraping on the pavement, right?
I think that was just a bit slow on the flare, to be honest. Maybe a little bit too little airspeed. But also, they have a lot of. They used to. These things are improving, but there's also a bit of lag between the time you apply the throttle and the time you actually get more thrust. So you've got to anticipate that. And if you're a little bit late, adding the throttle just makes it worse because it's already bounced, and then you're adding power while it's in the air.
And the worst with that is jet turbines, because once the turbine is low rev, it can't spool up again. So you get into the bounce, and it's just
Wow, it's a lovely model, that Lightning. It's a lovely. Now I'd look 50,000 RPM. DJ Engines. Wow, what a comment! I bet DJ Engines knows. Who'd have thought it? Who'd have thought it? So M30, have you got one yet, Louis?
No. Why?
Because you always have the latest thing. If you haven't rushed to have that, there's got to be a reason.
Like I said the last time, how can I take that stupid thing to somewhere if I cannot take the batteries with me?
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh God, please DJI, wake up and read the IATA rules. It clearly states 99 watt-hours. Come on, guys, be smart, be proactive, or then do some smaller batteries. I don't care, it only flies 20 minutes. It's okay. It's better to fly 20 minutes that I can take I can take the drone anywhere. Then flying 40 minutes, and I cannot take batteries. And like John Buckland is saying, no, most of the time you cannot buy batteries in the destination countries, because if you try to buy batteries, they'll say, oh, 2 weeks delivery time. And you say, thank you, I got some 2 weeks paid holidays. It's not a very economical, that does not make much sense. So when you go to somewhere to do something, you better be ready to operate, not relying on anything in the destination.
Yeah.
So,
and of course, when you're finished, you have to get rid of your batteries. So then you've got that problem as well. So yeah,
the famous M300, the $800 batteries that you need two, and to operate conveniently, you need 3 pairs. That makes it 6 times $800. That's around $5,000. So you go do a mission of 1 week, and then you leave $5,000 behind. Yeah, booking a private plane, it might be a choice. Not very wise. I would love to. I would also love to fly in first class. That's not the problem. That's not the case. No, that's
Mitchell's talking about the shipping via ground. Is that a?
Yeah, in US you can ship it via ground. Usually it's 2-3 days shipping time. Try to go to, say, normal country like Argentina, or try to go to a normal country like South Africa, and try to buy the batteries in South Africa. What's the lead time they give you, Gary?
Oh, I don't know. They would have to get them in from China, I'm sure. So it'd be a long time, especially at the moment. There's a lot of stuff. We're waiting on a lot of stuff at the moment, stuck in Shenzhen. So it's almost as long as a bit of string at the moment.
And they might mentioning the issue that they were planning. DJI was planning a battery delivery service for not a minor fee. They had that thing announced, but never appeared, and the costs that we were offered were just like, let's say, not friendly to the service. But yeah, it would be a possibility. It's not easy, and these days you need to operate commercially. You need not only 2 or 3 sets of batteries. You need 6 sets of batteries, 2 charging cases. So it's not easy. And DJI should do a travel-friendly battery for the M30 if they want to put it in the market. It's different in US that you can put the batteries in a car and drive from Florida to I don't know, Washington State, and they will be there in 2-3 days. Or you can drive and take the Route 66 on the way, and it's completely different when you have to travel, even in Europe. Come on.
It would be the same. Technically, you could drive to Europe, but the countries you go through, the borders you cross, and be a nightmare.
Yeah. So here's a quick question that I forgot to ask. So COVID in China at the minute is going a bit crazy in 1 or 2 cities. It looks like they're going to could end up having to shut down. The one Louis just mentioned, where DJI are,
Shenzhen. Yeah, they have shut it down. They did.
What impact will that have on getting?
It's having a huge impact already. It's having a huge impact here. Stuff is coming up.
Can you imagine the 3G delay?
Go on. Say again, Louis.
No, you're just an naysayer. Huge impact. Come on.
No, it's true. Nothing's getting here from China at the minute.
Come on. Remember a couple of years ago, I also sent you some T-shirts and some some swag and never got there.
Never got it. Yeah.
So it's not a problem from China.
Well, yeah. There could be a touch of that, right? But no, we got some gear coming that's stuck from Foxtech. So I don't, you got that there. Yeah, all right. It's our fault.
But you know, if they shut that down, will that delay, say, a Mini 3 release or whatever?
Quite possibly. I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
You'd
people
think.
are getting excited about
rumor,
that.
What's that rumor that there is? They were announcing a new Mini 3 V2.
Was it a Pro? I heard a Pro, but I could be wrong.
Or a Pro or whatever.
Yeah, with a 1-inch camera, which I thought was rather interesting because I don't see it coming. I don't see a Mini 3 coming with a 1-inch sensor.
Yeah, John's right. That is, someone does have the swag, just not me. That's very true. Look, we are beginning to talk nonsense. Is there, Louis? Is there anything else you think we should be talking about this week before we go? I know you've only just arrived. It's not you, honest. Oh, maybe it is.
Maybe it is. You've lost him.
Yeah, that did it.
Come back, Jensen.
Come back, yeah. Our live broadcast from NVIDIA. Oh, we did lose him. Was it something I said? It must have been something I said. Yeah,
Try and remember that for next time, yeah.
I will. It worked, didn't it? Worked a treat. Right, okay. Is there anything else before we go? Going once, going twice, dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, look after yourselves. Lovely to see the normal names. Oh, he's back. Device not connected. He's back. Oh, no, but it's not connected. Lovely to see you all in the comments. Look after yourselves. Be careful wherever in the world. Watch that thing about Elon Musk on Netflix, the return to space. It was pretty amazing. Lots of stuff about the FAA and stuff. I'm wrapping it up now, you go. I was hoping we'd have gone, Louis. There's lots of things we might talk about as it pertains to this industry, how NASA and how established businesses were getting in the way. So I thought that was very interesting about that. But anyway,
there's nobody managing low Earth orbit.
Yeah, I know. It's frightening stuff, isn't it?
Kessler syndrome. Look out. Yeah. Anyway, next
time
we'll be covering this.
Look after yourselves. Bye bye, everyone. Cheers. 2100 GMT next week. Bye bye. 1